Our Pathways to Purpose speaker for today is Tezra Osthus. And Tezra is a 2008 Valpo grad. Welcome back.
Thank you.
I understand you have a passion for using your skills and gifts to make the world a better place, which is something we love to see here at Valpo. And that you really focus on the most vulnerable and marginalized in our society. Just a few words about your background for our audience. You can always correct me if I'm way off base here, but I understand you spent time in Honduras through an organization called Nuestros Pequeños Hermanos, which is raising more than 3,400 orphaned, abandoned, and disadvantaged children in Latin America and the Caribbean. Your journey has also led you to work at Family Resource Center in rural Colorado, a community health clinic in Detroit, Michigan, and the fundraising arm of Nuestros Pequeños Hermanos, NPH, which was in the Twin Cities. You have a master's in social work from the University of Michigan, and you're currently pursuing a master's of education at Augsburg College, also in the Twin Cities. Got it?
Yeah.
Great, thank you. Well, this is just an opportunity for us to hear a little bit more in depth about your own pathway to purpose. And to start with, I'd just like to go back to the moment that you were graduating in 2008 from Valparaiso University. What was your mood? Were you anxious? Did you feel prepared? Were you asking questions? Where were you as a student who was about to graduate?
I think I felt a little bit of all of those things. I felt really inspired. I remember leaving Valpo and feeling excited to go out and kind of try things in the world that I've been thinking about a lot in college, and not just sort of have the discussions, but actually put some of these ideas into practice.
What have you been studying at Valpo?
I think ideas about living in community and what that meant, like things about what it meant to serve other people, and how you did that and how you put love into action, and what kind of a vocational call maybe felt like and where that was leading me.
And what classrooms, what majors, minors, how did you encounter those questions in the curriculum itself?
So I majored in psychology and Spanish. I think I was really involved in the social action leadership team in SALT, and a lot of those ideas I wrestled with in SALT and with my other friends from SALT. And I think just, not even as much in the classroom, but with other students at Valpo and my friends here outside of the classroom, we'd have lots of conversations about what we wanted to do afterwards and where we found meaning and where we found purpose. And so not as academic, more just kind of thoughtful.
Lovely. When you think about actually stepping out, leaving here, stepping out, having that opportunity to, as you say, get experience and really do your work in the world, what were some of the very early career decisions you made, and maybe which one had the most impact as you look back?
I mean, by far the most impact was deciding to become fluent in Spanish. I'd studied abroad my junior year in Ecuador, and afterwards came home deciding that I really wanted to learn Spanish and be immersed in Spanish. And I think every single job that I've had since college, sort of not the reason I got it, but a tipping point has been that I could speak Spanish. And that, was something I learned in the classroom here, but then also outside of the classroom through a lot of experiences.
And when you made that decision, was it based on the idea that it was going to serve you so well after college?
No, I liked it. It was one of the first things that I felt like I actually really enjoyed learning and being able to do, and so I just sort of decided to follow that, and I really had no idea how much it was going to impact me.
You then stepped pretty quickly into a role with Nuestros Pequeños Hermanos in Honduras. And then you, through a circuitous path, came back to NPH in Minneapolis. So you had these two roles, but they're very different.
Yeah.
I'm wondering how you experienced the organization, sort of in those two perspectives, and how you changed and grew over time to be able to take on the role that you had at NPH as an employee.
so working on the ground in Honduras was a lot of day-to-day work with the kids, and so NPH was raising 3,400 orphan and abandoned kids, and in Honduras there's about 500. So I worked as the English teacher for the little kids, and then I worked with the preteen girls. And a lot of my job there were just kind of the daily tasks of life, getting the girls to brush their teeth at night and wash their dishes after dinner, and did they finish their homework, and kind of those things that parents do. And in the classroom, it was a lot of, trying to get the kids excited about English and allowing them to then, learn enough English that they could use it with visitors and volunteers. And I loved it. I mean, it was really challenging. I think when you do a long-term volunteer experience, the sort of high of a mission trip dissolves pretty quickly, because you're not just somewhere for a short amount of time where you come back and feel like, oh my gosh, those kids were all adorable and they were so cute and they were so nice, and I mean, kids are bratty everywhere, and so, they weren't always nice to you, and it wasn't always fun, but you also got to form really deep relationships, which was cool. And I think some of that was the impetus for wanting to work for NPH in the US, which was also, I did fundraising for them for 3 years, and it was a really good experience, but it is really distinct from working on the ground. You're working in an office every day at a computer. You talk to a lot of people and meet with a lot of donors, but it's not quite the same, tangible feelings of making a difference and those sorts of things. And it was, I enjoyed it, and I enjoyed being able to use sort of the diverse set of skills that I was able to in each setting, but I think maybe the most important thing for doing the fundraising was, having the passion before and feeling like I know where this money is going to make a difference.
So that your experience as a service member with NPH really helped you become a fundraiser. But did you take any classes on fundraising when you were at Valpo?
Not classes, I was the World Relief Campaign chair my senior year for SALT. So that was sort of my most tangible fundraising experience. And otherwise, I just did a lot of training for me and, learned some of those skills on the job.
But the fundraising work with SALT, did that translate over into a nonprofit organizational setting?
Yeah, I mean, parts of it yes, parts of it no. Every nonprofit does their fundraising a little bit differently, so there were definitely things that I learned in the World Relief Campaign and ideas of, thinking about fundraising, thinking about your donors and your mission and those kinds of things that I think were helpful. And I think obviously that kind of experience always is helpful to have on your resume if that's the kind of a job that you're applying to. But there's obviously lots more that I learned working in the field for longer too. So.
Yeah. Are there things you wish you had been able to study at Valpo that would have prepared you for any of the various things you've taken on along your way?
Yeah, I think not so much study. I think I wish I hadn't been so focused on picking, having one career and picking and staying with it. I never considered, well, maybe I should, get a nursing degree. I do like working with people. I could do this for a couple years while I'm trying to figure out what else might come next, And so I did psychology and Spanish, which prepares you for everything and prepares you for nothing. And so that's sort of, as I've reflected back on that, I've had friends that, have chosen a more career-based major and maybe are still not in it, but at least were able to have a jumping off point, which just is something that never crossed my mind when I was in college. But as far as classes, I don't know if there are specific classes that I wish that I had taken. I think, every job that I've had has been sort of in different nonprofit roles, but also kind of distinct in that a lot of times it felt like the work you were doing you weren't necessarily going to learn in the classroom, you were going to just sort of learn on the job, and so, yeah.
Did you do any internships as an undergraduate? That's a common feature of the undergraduate experience now.
I did an internship at, I can't remember the name of it now, but it was a counseling center in Valpo, which at that point I was thinking, oh, maybe I want to be a therapist. And so that was helpful for me to be able to, I was able to sit in on some sessions with clients and then also help prepare some materials. And, that experience made me decide I don't want to become a therapist, but then when I was doing the MSW program, I kind of struggled with, I do love the idea of therapy, and maybe I could do this for a little bit, and but yeah, and I did an internship when I studied abroad in Ecuador too. I was with a preschool for low-income students there, and just helped in the classroom, and that was important to help me learn Spanish, and also just important working with kid experience.
And so you did, you had sort of this broad liberal arts
Mm-hmm.
preparation at Valpo with psychology and Spanish, but now, then you got a master's in a specific
Mm-hmm.
area of professional work, social work,
Mm-hmm.
and now you're pursuing another master's in
Mhm.
education. So what led you to choose those two degree areas?
Yeah, so the master's in social work, I didn't go into it thinking I wanted to be a therapist. So my concentration was the macro field, so nonprofit management, and then working with communities. And for the MSW, I was really attracted by the philosophy of the MSW and just kind of the way that they infuse social justice and service and making changes in the world. And a lot of, since I wasn't choosing the clinical route, it's kind of something that you could use for certain jobs, but if not, just I feel like has helped form a philosophy of life for me. And then now with the Master's of Education, I've been volunteering teaching ESL for the past couple years, and I've just loved it and feel like, this is the next step for me professionally that I want to do. I don't think I'm going to teach forever, but I do want to, teach for 10 or 15 years and kind of then be able to mold that experience with some of the nonprofit and MSW experience for something later in my career.
Yeah. It sounds like you have really absorbed and begun to live out the idea that you do things for a time, and that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a mistake to have gotten a master's in social work if you're now getting a master's in education.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a sort of
Yeah.
continuation. Is there something, though, that you have, like a thread that you feel you need to hang on to through all of these things? Some continuity or orientation that's consistent across the continents of experience?
Yeah, I think the jobs that I've always been most attracted to are ones where something where you are making a tangible difference in the lives of others and hopefully making their lives better, specifically people that our culture and society tend to oppress and marginalize. And so I think all the opportunities that I've pursued have had that common thread, and the MSW and ESL program both kind of tie into that as well.
Mm-hmm. Do you ever think, well, maybe I'll move in the direction of policy as opposed to direct service?
Yeah, that's been my struggle since college. I love working with people, but my brain also thinks in a macro sense, and so I kind of jump back and forth with that. And with the fundraising for NPH, I definitely saw it as a way to be involved on a more macro level and fundraising, but I really missed working with people on a day-to-day basis. And so I think for me, my job, but then also my volunteer experiences outside of work are gonna kind of always complement each other, and some be more advocacy and then some be more direct service.
So that's one way to do it. You do one thing that brings in the paycheck and the other that's on the side, and they can kind of go back and forth.
Yeah.
When you think about policy in the nonprofit sector, you've now served, interned, and worked in a variety of nonprofit settings. Is there any sort of key systemic challenge that you really wish we as a society would address, or a change that we could make in the way the sector operates that might be a project for some future Valpo grad to try to work on, or for you?
Yeah, I don't know if a project necessarily, but I think my biggest struggle is this idea that when you're giving money to the operating budget of an organization, you're not helping the people, and that if you any organization where more of their money is going towards the direct service of the people is doing better, because that might not be true, and that's not really a fair way to judge the impact that organizations make and can possibly have. And I think it's a pretty, there seem to be these myths out here, like 90-10 or 80-20, or, that this percentage should be going to the operating budget, this percentage should be going to help people. And I think people that don't know a lot about nonprofits sort of hear that and feel like they have this nugget of wisdom by which to judge a nonprofit's efficacy, and then look at nonprofits and what they're doing and use that ruler, which, when you talk to people that are working in nonprofits, that's not always true. And there's a lot of grants out there that don't fund the operating budget, but how are you going to implement a grant without having some, folks operating it? And so, and I don't know how we change that as a society, but it's something I think about a lot and really kind of struggle with.
Yeah. Did you encounter donors in your work as a fundraiser who surprised you with their wisdom or their generosity? I mean,
yeah.
People you would want us to emulate?
Yeah, I mean, I think as much that surprised me with their generosity as the ones that didn't surprise me with their generosity. It always felt like this, for every person that you would talk to, that you would just think, wow, why are you even donating money? Then you would talk to other people that were really inspiring, and it just felt like, yeah, thank you for wanting to make a difference in the world with what you've been given.
Fundraising is not easy work, but it's essential given the way we have set up the provision of basic services to those who are most vulnerable and marginalized. So Valpo does now have a minor in philanthropic leadership and service, and we're trying to help prepare students to work in this world of service that is supported through giving. And I'm wondering if you have any sort of advice you'd like to give to Valpo grads as they head out and work in organizations that depend on philanthropy and volunteerism.
Yeah. Something that I've thought a lot about since leaving Valpo is, I kind of went into the nonprofit sector because I liked volunteering and thought, I can get paid to be a volunteer, I should work in the nonprofit sector, which isn't true necessarily. And so I think that's something I've done a lot of reflecting on is, the things that I'm choosing to volunteer doing, the ways that I'm choosing to make money, and that's, sometimes your passions where they align aren't necessarily what you think they might be going into it.
Yeah. So to be prepared for that.
Yeah.
And for the surprises.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. When you came back to Valpo, so it's 2016 now, so it's been 8 years since you graduated. What do you notice about campus?
There's a lot of new buildings. It looks very, that's sort of it looks really different from when I was here, but it's exciting because you can kind of feel the energy of what the space creates for the people that are functioning in it.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that the new space creates is opportunities to invite alumni back, and we're just delighted to have you back on campus and here and meeting with students and staff and faculty and being a continuing part of the Valpo story. So, Tezra Osthus, thank you so much
Yeah, thank you so much
with us today.
Thank you.